Hey there, my name is Lucas Silveira, and I am here with AJ McLean on Consequence Peer to Peer. Hi, AJ.
Lucas, hello. Hi, everybody. AJ McLean here on Consequence Peer to Peer. And I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Me too. Yeah, I think so too. I just recently had the amazing opportunity to be on your Instagram. You handed over your Instagram platform to myself, and you're also doing that every Thursday and handing over the Instagram platform to transgender folks. And yes, this is an amazing thing that you're doing. And I'm so proud of the fact that I was the first person to do this. And just for reference for folks, I was the first out trans man to ever be signed to a major label record deal. And this is how I got on there. Thank you very much.
Awesomeness.
So you seem to have this connection to the transgender community, and your new song and video is called Love Song. This is your new single, and you actually feature two transgender models in there. So what got you involved with the trans community?
Well, let's go way back into time for me. I grew up in the musical theater world ever since I was about 4 years old. And I was surrounded by predominantly women in my life. And my original acting teacher, the most amazing woman in the world, Nona Lloyd, she was gay, and her partner would be there every day that we were in rehearsal. And so at a very early age, I was introduced to the LGBTQ community. I never looked at it as anything different. I never looked at it as anything wrong. I just was like, okay, cool. This is what it is. I'm good with it. And over the course of my life, I've gotten more and more in touch with the LGBTQ community, and especially as of late, the trans community. Look, it's no, what's the word I'm looking for? It's common knowledge that as of late, the trans community has just been on a major uphill battle, fighting for equality, fighting for acceptance, whether it's in the military or the music business or government. Politicians, our previous idiot in chief, I have no shame in saying that, just too much diversity and not enough, too much divide and not enough coming together. And for me, it just kept rubbing me the wrong way. And I'm like, how can I be a part of this movement in the right direction? What can I do to give back? What can I do to show my support to the trans community, especially? So when my partner, Renee, and I, who is my directing partner, my longtime best friend of 20 years, he's a phenomenal director, songwriter. When I finished Love Song Love, I played him the song. He lost his shit over it. He was like, oh my God, this is a phenomenal, happy song. It makes me feel good. And we started talking about the video treatment. And here's a little fun fact, which is so crazy to me. And it's so serendipitous that it was obviously meant to be. At the beginning of lockdown, I was scrolling through photos online, looking for new fashion ideas for me. Because I've always been comfortable with my sexuality, comfortable with myself, whether it's wearing makeup, nail polish, dresses, high heels, doesn't matter. I've been comfortable in my own skin since I was a kid. And so I was looking up all these amazing photos, and I saw these beautiful photos in this, it looked like Barbie's dream house. And cut to talking to my buddy Renee about the video treatment. He goes, I have the perfect location. And he shows me video of the dollhouse. And I'm like, hold on a second. And I go back to my photos and I'm like, dude, what are the chances that this is the same exact spot. So we start talking further and further about making a video that's just happy and this, that, and the other. And I said, look, we need 2 actresses. We need 2 female leads to be the focal point of this video. And I want it to be a celebration, and I want it to be 2 transgender women. That is nothing else. I don't want to go looking anywhere else. It's this or it's nothing. And we went through the audition process, and we found 2 beautiful women, Nala Wild, Carmen Carrera, 2 absolutely breathtaking transgender women. I was just blown away. The sweetest people in the world. They had so much fun. And by the end of the shoot, it was just so amazing to get this connection. And we now speak on a regular basis. It's been phenomenal. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, thank you to you, Lucas, for being the first to kick this off on my Instagram. And we're going to continue this all the way through the album release, which is going to be top of next year. So I'm doing this every week. We're going to not stop, and we're going to keep going. So
fantastic. Well, I love all of that. I'm just like, my insides are glowing, because it's amazing to see somebody who has, you know, a public and, you know, that much privilege to be able to say to themselves, what am I going to do for this community? And how am I going to give from what I got? And as somebody who's been in the music industry and has seen that not happen, I can almost say never. And you are one of the first people that I know of who has literally just said, I'm going to use my position to lift the voices and do it in a joyous way, where it's not exploitive, where it's not, you know, in a way that is like, oh, this is for me. No, this is for the community. And you're doing that. And I honestly love that, because trans people are so invisible, right? And we are so invisibilized. And now, beyond being invisible, like you said, your government is, you know, passed, and still some right now, what's happening in Tennessee with the healthcare bill of denying transgender youth the right to be able to transition, or, you know, as kids. But, you know, people are trying to erase us. And what you're doing is you're saying, no, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm actually going to use what I have, and I'm going to make sure that people know that this exists. So I want to say thank you to you as well, because I think that that's a really honorable thing to do.
Well, so I mean, look, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, you know, there has been quite a few celebrities over the years that have used their platform in the right way, and have been very much about giving and literally expecting nothing in return. But there's also been quite a few that have turned the other cheek. And because, you know, and it's not to say that they don't support it, but they don't want to get involved. I want to dive in head first. I want to get thoroughly involved. I am involved now. I'm in it. I'm in the thick of it, and I'm going to continue to be that way. And I have a question for you, though, because, you know, how was it for you transitioning in the public eye, especially in the music world, which from musician to musician, I think the music world is even more critical and criticizing than the film and TV world, because there is so many genres, there's so many walks of life, there's so many beautiful creatures that are involved in the music scene. How was it for you transitioning in the public eye, where, you know, and then finally achieving that heroic moment of being the first transgender artist to be signed to a major label?
Well, I wasn't the first transgender artist, so I'm gonna correct you on that. I was the first transgender man. So there was a woman back in the 70s. Her name was Wendy Carlos. She had already come out, but she did movie soundtracks and stuff like that. So I was the first out person to ever be signed. I say that because I know I'm going to get in trouble if I don't. But
and please educate me, please.
Of course, that's what we're here for. But I came out as trans in 2006. So, you know, it was a while back, and my band got signed just after I came out. And for me, it was a very bizarre experience because here I was, there had never been anybody else in my position who had been on a mainstream, like on a major label. I was with Warner Music here and Tommy Boy Silver label in the United States. And what ended up happening was very strange because back then, the knowledge around testosterone and hormone therapy for trans men, they didn't really know how it worked with the voice. And I was told by a bunch of trans guys that I was going to lose my singing voice. So what ended up happening was I get signed, my dream comes through as a musician, and then I can't move forward because part of my identity was my singing voice. I couldn't lose that, and I couldn't just give that up. So I got into this weird place where I was identifying as male, I was identifying as Lucas, but the world was seeing me as and reading me as female, unless they were my fans and they had that respect for me and, you know, knew what that was about. So it was really polarizing because while I was doing this thing that I loved, I was also in a lot of suffering because of the gender dysphoria that I was going through. And then this weird thing happened where I started getting criticized by the LGBTQ community, mainly the lesbian and gay community, for trying to, and these were the actual words of, I did an interview, it was actually in California on a radio show. And this gay guy calls in and he says, you know what? I don't want people like you riding on the coattails of my movement. You people are mentally ill. Being gay isn't a choice. And I was like, whoa. Wow. So I know. So I was in the music industry, the mainstream music industry, you know, experiencing, yes, transphobia. Like you said, a lot of people will put themselves forward and say, yes, this is great. But then when it comes to actually doing the work and pushing it through, all I would get was, you know what, this isn't in our, you know, spectrum of programming, and we don't think our audiences are going to get it. And I was like, what do you mean they're not going to get it? We're a rock band. Oh, so you mean that being transgender is the only thing that you see, don't hear the music. And I started feeling this sort of like dehumanization because they couldn't see me as an artist. They had to see me as a queer artist. And that was where, you know, the toxicity was within the mainstream music industry. And then I had this other part where the fans were saying things like that to me, the lesbian and gay fans. And then the transgender fans who weren't really fans that I got criticized by were like, you're not really a man. If you were really a man, you'd be on testosterone. And I have this affinity with my past where I really don't want to fragment who I was and who I am now. And I will easily say I used to be a woman because I was. That's what I feel. That's my narrative. And I got so criticized by that. So I was in this very strange place where I was the first mainstream sort of like visible trans person that had happened in a really, really long time. And I was touring with people like Cyndi Lauper and Debbie Harry and Joan Jett, Tegan and Sarah. This like amazing things were happening. But then I had all of this criticism and transphobia, not only from the mainstream community, like cisgender community, but also from the lesbian and gay community. So it was actually a really, really hard time for me.
I mean, it sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, like at the end of the day, it helped me grow into who I am. Eventually the band broke up, the label dropped us. And I always saw this thing back then. I was like, oh, this is such a horrible thing. And how am I going to keep going? But then I took it as an opportunity to actually transition, and I found a way to do it. And now I can sing, I can play, and I do it on my own terms. And it's, you know, I was on your Instagram platform doing that. And
I mean, here's
it feels great now.
Here's the thing that I think is really something that I personally want people to hear, and it's almost paralleled in something that you said, which, you know, for an artist like myself or for Backstreet Boys, we've always said it's about the music first. The music is what carries the band. It doesn't matter who is behind the microphone. If the music is good and the music brings joy to people, it shouldn't matter who is behind the microphone. If that person is gay, straight, trans, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. If the music is put out there first, that's what is bringing people joy. And it's unfortunate to have to hear that kind of real trial and tribulation that you had to go through to finally get to that place where all of it can work together, you know, where the music is there, you're comfortable with who you are, you've got the support. That's the ultimate, you know, goal. But getting there, you know, it's just fascinating to me to hear almost that inner turmoil amongst the gay and lesbian community and the trans community, that, you know, kind of that almost non-acceptance at first. That just kind of blows my mind, because I'm learning something new right now, because I've always been under the impression that everybody in the LGBTQ community are all in it together. But
yeah, no.
maybe not, not, I mean, obviously that's not necessarily truth. And it's, you know, like I've learned from a few of my gay friends that, you know, you have the trans community and then you have those that dress in drag. And there's a big butting of heads there between the trans community and the drag community. And it's interesting to me. Like you know, it blows my mind, because I always thought everybody was under the same bubble, working together for the same common goal of self-love, acceptance, and just the big one, equality. So it's fascinating to me to hear that from you, that you had that much pushback, not only from, you know, the straight community, but even the gay and lesbian community. That blows my mind. It literally
it blew my mind too.
I mean, it's
but,
just
you know,
like, whoa.
Yeah,
but I
it's
mean,
a process, right?
Exactly. Everything, you know, all these things come in, you know, phases, you know, building to whatever is, this is what I truly believe. And this is why, you know, Love Song Love says what it says, is you got to love yourself first and foremost. If you don't love yourself, obviously the old saying, then how can you love someone else? But also a lot of the pushback, in my opinion, is fear driven, and, you know, literally just not understanding. And and look, for those that are being negative and degrading and pushing back, you don't have to understand. It's not your place to understand. It's not your life. It's not your body. It's not your soul. It's not your existence. So shut the fuck up. It's got nothing to do with you. But unfortunately,
basically, yes.
You know, everybody's got a freaking opinion. And, you know, that's the only downside I feel about social media. Like, there's a beautiful thing about social media where we as artists can connect to our fans, and we can, and it's instant. But then at the same time, it's turned into this judgmental, derogatory, you know, like throwing darts in the dark. Okay, who can I mess with today? You know, who's better than me? Who's less than me? And it's sad. Like, I just gave my 8-year-old her first phone. She has no access to social media whatsoever, but she's a competitive dancer. And because of COVID, mommy and daddy can't be inside some of these conventions in these rooms. So if something happens, I want her to be able to reach out to me. But, you know, every couple of days, she's like, Daddy, can I have TikTok? I'm like, hell no. Daddy, can I have Instagram? Hell no. Because there's weirdos out there. There's creeps. There's, you know, and I don't want anyone body shaming you or whatever. I mean, there's weird people out there, man. There is weirdos.
Good for you, man. I mean, I think I'm actually older than you, but we grew up in an era where, you know, when you go to see your friends, you hop on your bike, you go see them, you hang out outside like a coffee shop, or you hang out on the grass in a park and you talk. And that seems to be like something that's not really, everybody thinks they're talking, but they're not really talking. They're just like putting on this persona
totally.
of who they think they are.
I think I think it's really interesting because yesterday I did an interview, and when I was leaving the interview, the cameraman and the sound guy, they said something that is a very common phrase, but because of COVID, it was, I took it differently. They said, nice to see you. And I was like, I never, I've been hearing that my whole life. We all have, hey, nice to see you. But now it's got a different meaning. It's like, nice to see you. And I'm like, wow, it is nice. And I think what's cool now is because everyone's been cooped up, now when you get to go and see your friends, you want to talk, you want to have those conversations, you want to go to the coffee shop. You don't want to be sitting there talking to your friend who's right in front of you on your freaking phone. I have a question for you, back to the music. Because I know for me in the different phases of my life, when I was battling addiction with drugs and alcohol, my interpretation of my music was different. It was very, I hate to say it, but it was like slit your wrist depressing level, because that's where I was in my head. And now the stuff I'm writing a year and a half sober, it's like this. I'm freaking happy. I'm elated. I feel great. My relationship with my wife is the best it's ever been. My kids never have to see me drunk or high. It's a beautiful thing. During the transitioning process for you, how did that affect your music? Like, as far as maybe what you were writing about, or, subject matter, or did it affect your music?
Absolutely. There's the humanity part that happens when a person is transitioning in any point of their life. And if you are feeling like you can't be your authentic self, whoever you are, there's going to be pushback from yourself. And so back in those days, when I was in the thick of it, there was a lot of rage, there was a lot of anger. And that's why the music that I wrote was really hard and really rock. And it was pretty dark. Like you said, I did find my moments of hope, but I would say that most of the music did surround sort of like that, either lack of love of self, trying to find love in myself through somebody else. I always say that sometimes when you keep chasing things, you can either chase love or chase a career, and it keeps getting further and further away from you. Why do you keep chasing something that's just showing you that it doesn't want you there? And that's because you don't really have that love for yourself that you're supposed to have. And I've struggled myself with, alcoholism and drinking. And I always say I have a very complicated relationship with alcohol. And, part of the pandemic has been sort of like going back to those places, because we're all alone in ourselves, looking at ourselves. And as somebody who's trans-bodied, that becomes a place of like too much attention. You're like, whoa, this is a lot of isolation for one person. I love being alone, but this is an active isolation, right? So, right. Like you said, I see you. We're starting, I think, really see ourselves. And I think that in doing that, that's giving us sort of like that ability to move forward. But yeah, my music definitely has changed. I went from being this really hard rocker, and it also changed. I know it's going to sound weird, but it is what it is. After I started testosterone, my emotional process changed. Like, I stopped being able to cry really easily. And I used to always think that not being able to cry for men was somehow completely related to toxic masculinity, that it was like, the boys don't cry thing. And I was like, oh no, this is actually a physical barrier. I feel it, but for some reason it takes so much for it to come out. So because of that, because that's my emotions, it affected my songwriting process. So I started becoming really more pensive in my music and taking a lot longer to sort of get the words out. And I softened. Like a lot of my music lately, I kind of went from electric guitar to acoustic, and now I do more stuff on the piano. But nice. I actually want to go back to something that you were talking about with your daughter, and also about toxic masculinity. It just sort of like popped into my head. You've done drag, you wear nail polish, and you did this back then, not when, guys in boy bands didn't do things like that, because your core market is typically straight females, right? Yeah. And or gay men. Right?
Yes. Yeah. It was one or the other. Yeah.
Right. So that's just a big thing. I remember when I used to tour with Cyndi Lauper, she would say that, the gay male community was like her core audience. So when you did that, was there a lot of pushback? Did you get a lot of people just being unkind and saying horrible things to you?
Well, I mean, when I first started, whether it was with the nail polish or makeup or dyeing my hair or any of those things, there was no social media back then. So the only people that could say anything to me was my bandmates or my family or my core group of friends. And everybody in my inner circle, especially my bandmates, they knew I was a different breed. I was the black sheep. I was a different apple for sure. Because, when we started, it was this cookie cutter, we all got to dress the same. We got to look a certain way. If we have girlfriends, we got to say we don't have girlfriends and blah, blah, blah. And, it came to a point where I just felt stifled, and I felt like I'm not being my true authentic self. Like I would see the Dave Navarros, and I would see these guys with their nail polish, and I'm like, that's cool. Like I want that. Why can't I have that? And then I would, sit there and kind of look at myself in the mirror and say, you can have that. There's no reason not to. Who gives a shit if somebody's like, what are you doing? And my band was very, very receptive. They actually, because they knew that they couldn't really stop it. It was going to happen regardless. They're like, we're going to tell him, hey, we don't really think that's a good look, but you're going to do it anyways. So, I'm an only child. So there was never any competition in my household. I was always the center of attention. So, and I love to be on and to perform. And that's just who I am. As I've gotten older now, I've kind of tried to dial it down a little bit. Like when I go out on a date night with the wifey, or I take my kids out shopping or somewhere, I try not to sing in public because I do it all the time. And it's like, if I'm trying to go on the DL, I'm not doing a real good job of it. But I just, it's just been something that I've embraced, and that again, like even this new, it's not new. I shouldn't say new. This direction that I'm finally feeling comfortable enough to go in with this kind of androgynous, very open, very, very real, genuine me. It's not really shocking anyone because people have seen me doing this for years, but I'm finally accepting it 110%. And I'm finally saying, you know what? I'm going to do it because it's me and I'm comfortable with that. I put makeup on every morning when I get up, even if I'm going to 7-Eleven. I'm wearing it right now. Like one of the pluses to marrying a professional makeup artist is you learn the best way to get a little contour and a little shade going on. It's the best.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate this so much because, I grew up in the era where Backstreet Boys, they were huge. Everybody was listening to them. Every song that you guys put out was huge. We were all like, I remember being at parties and people just getting up and singing and dancing to all of that stuff. And it's amazing to me to have this conversation with you because when a person, and this is me checking myself, right? When a person looks at a band like Backstreet Boys and sees this, presentation that is supposed to be for, the female gaze, I would say like the cis straight female gaze or gay men, you never think to yourself, these guys are introspective. You never think to yourself, these guys are growing or whatever. We take this mentality that pop music is like really, really shallow and that the people who are part of it must be as well. So I'm here checking myself because this is one of the best conversations I've had with a cis guy probably ever about this kind of stuff. And I so appreciate the fact that you are having this ability to get to this place in your life where you just feel so comfortable with yourself, where you're just like, fuck it. I'm just going to be who I am. Right.
Exactly.
Which is it might not be gender identity based, but it is definitely like a part of who you are and the performance that you put out into the world, because that's how you want people to see you, as a multi-layered person.
Exactly. I mean, so many people talk about, peeling back the onion. There's so many layers to the onion. And I'm still on like the 5th or 6th layer. There's so many more layers to me that people have not really gotten to see, because look, when you're part of a group, there is a group mentality there. There is individuality, but there's also that team effort. And people, I've seen it happen. It obviously happened to me with drugs and alcohol. People lose themselves in a group dynamic because you're not able to be 100% the individual that you may or may not be. You're not able to, because you want to conform to what is best for the team, for what's best for the group. But now we're all fathers, we're all married, we're all in our 40s. One of us is going to be 50 this year. Holy crap. Wow. Yeah, he's not happy about that. But it's like now there's this mutual respect amongst the 5 of us, where it's like, look, we get it. This is who you are. This is who you are. This is who I am. There was an issue back in the day where it was my 27th birthday, and I was going to Vegas, and I was asked to present an award at the AVN, which is the porn convention, at the Porn Awards. And one of my bandmates was doing a Christian pop album. And he was like, this is not going to work. And I'm like, but it's got nothing to do with you. But then I was also, now looking back on it, it was kind of a little bit of a selfish thought process for me. Like, maybe this is my thing, but this might actually have a direct effect on you. And that's not cool on my part. So maybe I should let you do you, and I could step back. It's sacrifice. It's, having a healthy balance. And that's the same for me now. Like, if I want to wear a dress in a performance, I pretty much expect them to be like, okay, that's you doing you. We're not going to step on your toes. And it's been like that thus far. But like you said, it takes time to get to that point where there's that mutual respect and there's that understanding. Because there isn't really anything more that I could do that's going to shock people. I'm past that shock and awe phase. Now this is me, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, that's fine. I love myself today in a non-conceited way. And that's huge for me, because I've been the most insecure person, which I know shocks a lot of people. They're like, how could you be insecure and do what you do? It's very easy to be insecure and do what we do, because
absolutely,
like you said, I mean, look at you talking about, that anger through your music, but to me, it sounded like it was the anger within yourself, not even angry at other people. It was anger within you. And that's a big thing to recognize. And then to be able to come out the other side and not look at yourself that way anymore. That's huge.
That's it. That's, part of the work that I've done as I've gotten older has been about self-love. I realized that it doesn't matter who thinks what about me, whether it be the cisgender community, the gay and lesbian community, the trans community, it doesn't matter. If I know who I am, if I am moving in the direction of my own truth, that's all that should matter. And it was the practice of self-love, like you said. And it's so funny that we have to say in not a conceited way, because what's wrong with loving yourself? Like, even that seems to be a problem, right? But it was in that I truly came to finally see myself, whether I'm invisible in the world. Like, I can't care about that, because unless you see yourself, you're never going to feel seen, no matter what happens. Right. Let's go you were talking about your daughters, and this thing popped into my head. You have a new nail polish line. I keep seeing your hands up. I love that you talked about Dave Navarro, because he was like, I used to love Jane's Addiction. He was right? Just one of the greatest bands ever. But you have a new nail polish line. So you're not even just like living this, but you're extending it. And you're a cis man who has a nail polish line, and it's named after your daughters. Is it Avadine or Avadine?
It's Avadine. So Ava is my oldest daughter's first name, and Dean is my youngest daughter, Lyric's middle name. So yeah, it's Avadine Beauty, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're starting with nail polish. We do want to move into a complete organic cosmetic line, non-animal tested, completely organic.
Yes.
But this is at the core of this, and the epicenter of it is, I want to make this for everyone. I want to make this for men and women, kids. By being a girl dad, it's allowed me to really embrace the me that I've always been. And not to say that if I had boys, I still couldn't do that, because what I think is cool is both Kevin's boys and Brian's son, for a little period of time, started painting their nails to be like their Uncle AJ. And I'm like, rock on, that's awesome. And, my bandmates are totally cool, that they're like, you're rubbing off on them. And I'm like, hey, what do you want? I'm sorry, not sorry. That's just who I am. But my partner and I, Josh, we talked about this. It's been almost 6 years in the making. It's incredible how long it takes to get nail polish, like literally done and out, and
wow,
bottling service, the brushes, the caps, the packaging. It's insane. But to be here now and to be getting such a positive response, and something that we actually want to start doing moving forward is to be more inclusive. We want to actually start finding people that have very inspiring stories, whatever walks of life that they come from, and to let them pick a color of their choice. And then on that bottle will be their story. And hopefully that will inspire other people. One of the girls that we were talking to recently, she wants to be the youngest African-American competitive horseback rider, like in the Olympics, which I think is phenomenal.
For sure.
So we want to really take that and run with it. So that's something that we're talking about right now, moving forward. And we do have a couple of new colors coming out. One is named after my grandmother, who was my biggest inspiration in my career. Her name's Ursula, which I know a lot of people are going to think the Sea Witch from Little Mermaid, but but that's a beautiful turquoise color, which is my favorite color. And then we have a Merlot purple color that I'm calling Mom's Night In. Because, moms need a break. They want to kick back and have a glass of Merlot once the kids are going to bed, so, but it's been a really fun experience, because having girls, my daddy-daughter dates are, we go to the nail salon, or I paint their nails here, or, we're having dance parties. It's just the best. It's the best job in the world to be a father. There's nothing greater. The reward is the most amazing feeling. And we live in a very open-minded, very open-spirited, non-judgmental household. To the point where I got ordained to marry my two best gay friends. I'm still ordained, which sucks a little bit, because now a bunch of other friends of mine are like, hey, can you marry me? I'm like, no, it was a special thing. Not going to happen. Sorry, you missed your window. But, we try to really educate our girls and, explain to them that everybody is created equally, and that it doesn't matter sexual preference. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. You know, my my oldest kind of snapped me off the other day, and I thought it was hilarious because I don't listen to the radio because a lot of it is the same thing all day, same five or 10 artists, and that's it. I'm starting to now to educate myself to know what my kids are listening to. And we were listening to this new artist, Doja Cat. And I just asked my wife, I'm like, is she white or black? I can't tell. And my daughter's like, it doesn't matter the color of her skin, Dad. And I was like, okay, whoa, wasn't going there, babe. I was just, I don't know. Can you educate me? And she said, she's mixed, Dad. I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me that and educating me because I had no idea. But
your
like,
kids checking you, eh?
and kids have no filter. They will tell it like it is. And like, you know, they've seen our friends Mark and Tom come over and sit next to each other or kiss or hold hands. And I love the fact that they've never asked a single question. And if they do, I'm prepared and my wife's prepared to explain. And
yeah, well, that's it.
You know,
it's just the normalizing. So you're normalizing this for your children, and they're going to be the next generation that's going to be coming up where it's not even a conversation because it's just normalized, right?
Yes, it is. This is what it is. And, you know, the goal, hopefully, you know, in all of our minds is to get to that place where it is no longer a topic of conversation. It just is what it is. And that's all that it is. And it doesn't have to be, you know, brought up in politics and this and that. It should just be, and that's it. You know, and where
everybody is getting the same rights and everybody is living. Yeah,
exactly. And I am happy, as I'm sure you are, to see movement in the trans community for trans rights. It's just, it's taking a while, but it is starting to move, especially under this new presidency. It's starting to move in the right direction finally. And I'm elated over it. And as I am sure that you are. I mean, this is finally we're moving in the right direction. And I think it's long overdue.
Absolutely. I think what Biden is doing is he's undoing a lot of what, like you said, the idiot in chief before you. Basically, it was almost like he just decided he was going to go down and attack every trans person on the planet on every level and remove their rights. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done with, you know, certain states coming in and putting, you know, trying to pass bills that are anti-transgender and all that. But, you know, it is about having that conversation. It is about the visibility. It is about normalizing trans people, normalizing gay people. I'm doing a show, or like I'm a co-host of a TV show right now called Shine True, and it's on in the US on Fuse TV. And in this show, we basically, that's what we're trying to do. Myself and my co-host, Richie Shazam, we go into the world. We found 8 people who were all trans or non-binary identified. And we use fashion, interestingly enough, as a means to mentor them into a place where they can start feeling more comfort with themselves, or try to heal their relationships with their family or friends, or come into their own as musicians. It's like the gamut, right? And I was so proud to be part of something like that all these years later, after doing the music, after, you know, living that public life and being able to say, look at what we're doing here. We have like, you know, it's been called a makeover show, but I wouldn't call it that at all, because for me, it's more about, you know, getting in touch with who you are. It's about self-love, and it's about, you know, folks like myself and my co-host who have had that experience and can sort of lend to them in sort of like that mentor figure. I don't have kids. I have a dog. You know, I can't mentor my dog or ask her to accept society the way it is. But, you know, what you're doing is, you know, ending that generational trauma, which is to consistently say, these people belong here, these people belong here, we don't mix together, and that's that. So I think, that's super, super commendable. And you seem to be a really like level-headed guy. And as somebody who just told me that you're 1.5 years sober, is that what you said?
Yep.
Wow. That's big. Congratulations.
Well, look, the pandemic, that's the silver lining for me within the pandemic, because it's twofold. One, I got to be home with my family, and I was going to be touring the rest of last year and still going into this year. And, when we got back we had finished up in South America. We had one last stadium left in Sao Paulo, Brazil, that we were unable to do. The government shut it down because of safety. Excuse me. And we flew home on March 13th. And I believe the 16th is when the lockdown happened. So we just got back in time. Literally, or I would have been there for probably 3 months until they opened up, flights again. But and then on March 19th, a group of about 10 of us started a Zoom AA meeting. And, I was already about 3 months sober at that point. But then literally a meeting every day at 4:30, same time, every day, 7 days a week. We still do it now. And it's been such a great thing for me, because again, like you said, being at home, not able to go anywhere, you can either look inward or you can just say, fuck it, let yourself go, not give two shits, and do horrible things for your body, horrible things, in general. And I joke, because a lot of my friends put on the quarantine 30. They skipped over 15. They just said, I don't even care. I'm going to eat cake and, and pizza and whatever. And I, during the time that we were on the lockdown, I did the TV show Dancing with the Stars. And that's what kicked off this health kick for me. And I'm I'm at that point, I was roughly 9 months sober, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I have no excuse. I'm not traveling. I'm not in, Vegas doing the residency. I'm not at bars every night because things are closed. This is my time to really get it right and do it right. And so that to me is the silver lining about being stuck at home. But I didn't look at it as stuck at home. I looked at it as an absolute blessing. I got to be with my kids every day, take them to school, take them to dance, have the weekends to play. It's going to be rough come February of next year when we do go back on the road. It's going to be real. It's going to be hard on me. It's always hard on me when I leave, but I was leaving so often that my kids and I we got used to it a little. Of course. This is going to suck when I have to leave now, because it's going to be almost 2 years that I'm home.
Wow. So, well, everything's a transition, right? So you just take all the lessons that you got from this time and you take them with you. And, I was listening to your podcast, Pretty Messed Up, which you actually do talk a lot about, your struggle with addiction. And you guys go into some really, really intense stuff that I really, really appreciate, because it's so rare to have people actually talk about those really vulnerable places that they go to when they're struggling with addiction. So how do you think, what do you think are going to be your tools when you get back on the road?
Well, for starters, the one thing that I've never done that I know that I have to do in order to really have a great foundation is I do need to work my 12-step program. I need to work my steps. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I do want to inevitably sponsor someone. I want to have a sponsee, because I want to also walk, someone else through the steps and help someone get sober. Part of this whole process of being in, AA is fellowship and being of service. That is the ultimate thing. Obviously taking care of yourself and staying sober, but being able to help another addict and alcoholic. For me back in the day, I could stay sober at home, but the minute I got on a plane, my brain is already thinking the bar I'm going to, the dealer I'm going to call, and just the debauchery that's going to ensue, and then try to cover it up before I come home and sober up before I come home. And so I don't get caught. And that's no way to live my life. And my wife and I she got real close to the big D word. And I don't blame her. I mean, I put my wife through hell, and she is over the moon now. Our relationship's the best it's ever been. And we've been together for 12 years. And Beautiful. I'd say more than half of that, I was drunk or high. And it's sad, but it's true. But she hung in there because the glimpses of the sober me that she has today, that she saw, gave her hope to hang on. But man, she fucking deserves an EGOT and whatever else they got out there. The mom award, the wife award.
Yeah. The thing is you took accountability, right? And that's the number one thing. Accountability is probably the most important thing that you can do as a human being when you hurt another human being. It's a way of saying, hey, I fucked up. I'm really sorry. And now here's my behavior and how it's going to change. I always say that the best apology is changing your behavior. That's the best thing that you can do.
Actions
right?
Speak louder than words, because
that's it.
How many countless I'm sorry's, I'll never do it again did I say, where it's just air. I'm just blowing air, and it's not penetrating, because why should it? I've abused those words. And, today I try to live rigorously honest and just a true, genuine version of myself. And with my faults, I am not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. I need my imperfections in my mind. That builds the character that I have today, is that my imperfections are my perfections. I don't need to be always rock solid. I need to lean into the uncomfortable. I need to feel emotion. Everyone does, in my opinion.
Yeah,
everyone needs to lean into the uncomfortable and not just run the other way or use anger and hostility to project what's really going on in here.
Yeah, that's how we grow, right?
100%.
Yep. So as we wrap this up, just tell me what's the future for you? What's going on with your solo career and the Backstreet Boys? And I know that you have a Christmas album that's going to be coming out as well. So just give us a little rundown of that.
Yep. The long and short is my first EP, solo EP, will be coming out in the next few months. And there will be a follow-up second EP as well, and then a complete album top of 2022. Yes, Backstreet Boys are making a Christmas album, and our first one ever. We've been a band 28 years. We've never made a Christmas album. Mind blown, but it's finally happening. As well as I am an avid golfer, been golfing my whole life. I have a golf clothing line coming out, as well as another clothing line called BOA, which stands for Beautiful, Open, and Authentic. And I will be, that one I'm really, really excited about, especially in the LGBTQ world. There's going to be a lot of things happening with that brand in that community. And just enjoying fatherhood and being home, and looking forward to finally going on a vacation with my family this summer. Since, things are finally starting to open up, we're finally going to take a true family vacation. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be great for all of us to get out of California for a little bit.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, so many more things coming, and I'm going to continue to stay on this journey of love and spreading love and happiness and acceptance and self-love and equality. And I'm stoked. I'm stoked.